ROCHA FIRME Academy. Training for teachers and other professionals.
Instruct the wise, and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will add to their learning. Proverbs 9, verse 9. This is the Teaching Skills series, ROCHA FIRME Academy. Today's topic is Teaching Without Misleading, Part 2. In the previous session, we discussed two vital standards to teach a child without misleading them. And you must know that there's still so much more to be said about each of them. The first standard was having and sharing a vision. And the second one was preparing your work and learners. Today, we will look at two more standards, namely assessing your teaching skills and building using honesty and truth. We choose to talk about standards for now and not necessarily norms or principles for a reason. A standard means quality in the sense of good quality. There is no such thing as bad quality or low standards because quality is only on the high end of the spectrum. The other end has no quality at all, even to midpoint. Every time we talk about a standard, you ought to think about quality. Norms. Norms are not standards because a norm is a short form of the word normal. And what is normal does not always bear quality. Principles. Principles are fundamental truths or rules. And rules may not really change. They may not go away. Standards can change, but all for the consistency of quality. And that's why we don't talk about them as principles. God himself changes standards when he needs to. Look at Isaiah 59 verse 19, which says, "When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him." The first standard ever to be established was when God said, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." In Genesis 2 verses 16 to 17, this was not a law or a principle because sin did not exist yet. Nothing bad existed. Every single thing had God's quality in it. Do you now see why standards are important to our learners? If we have no standards, we will go by principles. If we have no principles, we will go by laws. If we have no laws, we will go by norms. If we have no norms, we have chaos, which results in destruction. Finally, let's now look at the two important standards that can be used to teach without misleading our learners. Number 3, assess your teaching skills. This is paramount. This standard is probably what separates a leading teacher from a classroom teacher. They constantly assess their skills. They can only polish them if they assess them. Mainstream education fails because assessments remain consistent for learners' skills and not teachers. If the learners are regularly assessed, why would the teachers not be? For example, reading, creativity, problem solving, writing, project management, and technical skills such as information, technology, and communication. These are all skills that require maintenance and an upgrade from time to time. Human life is constantly changing. As they say, the only constant in life is change. The first reason for a teacher to assess their skills would be for their own development. But the other reason would be because of change. You can't use yesterday's solutions in today's problems and expect them to work, lest you mislead your learners. In the professional world, they call that madness. Number 4, Build using honesty and truth. How many stories from the construction industry have we heard which reveal the lack of character in some builders? Buildings collapse. Money and time goes to waste, and sadly, resources are squandered, to say the least. And in the end, there's no intended outcome, no building. If it is there, it has no standards whatsoever. Teachers are like builders and property developers, but only better. They are entrusted to develop human beings, including builders themselves, and that is what gives them such great importance. Dishonest builders who overshoot their prices and deliver a low-level service, or perhaps promise quality materials, but when you are not looking, they use low-level materials, can't be trusted. As a teacher, are you trustworthy? Are you dependable? Are you reliable? Are you responsible? Not just for producing good results, but for remediating bad results too. We live in a world that honors affirmation more than honesty and truth. Affirmation is important, but not at the cost of truth. That is dishonesty. That is deceit. That is misleading. Have you ever heard the saying, as the twig is bent, so is the tree inclined? This is actually the bedrock of teaching without misleading. The way that a budding stick bends is the way that the tree will grow. The way you teach a learner is the way they develop. Katara Payton, an author of several books, once shared a real-life story about a male friend of hers. In his first year of university as a writer, he had to return to his hometown to talk with his high school English teacher, who had given him A's on all his papers, irrespective of the grammatical errors that he never learned to correct. During the talk they had, the teacher told him that his content was so great that she overlooked the mistakes. She might have apparently boosted his ego and made him a confident writer. But what good was it if he couldn't even begin taking university-level writing courses as a freshman? Be sure that your affirming words to your learners are not misleading. People want to hear affirming words. They want to be told that they are great and wonderful and the best thing since sliced bread. Your learners want to know you approve of their work and think they are making wonderful progress. It makes them feel secure and better about themselves. But what happens when that's just not the truth? Are we not doing more of a disservice to them when we don't speak truthfully? What happens if we don't correct them and they either graduate or perhaps move to a different location and display their unremediated learning? The embarrassment is more on you more than it is on them once the source of this issue is revealed. Rather be honest and truthful about your learners and to your learners. Be honest about yourself as well. Save your learners a remedial class when they move up a level in their education or life in general. The truth may be hard to work with at first, but it is harder to work with dishonest feedback at the end of it all. In summary, to avoid misleading learners, a teacher has to be accountable to himself and his learners. What that does is it makes him or her reliable, accessible, and accessible. Teachers who assess their skills regularly against a reliable standard for the reasons mentioned above are in a position to succeed in developing learners the right way and honest way without misleading them. Instruct the wise, and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will add to their learning. Proverbs 9 verse 9. We thank you for listening.